and call this meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals to order. Can we please have roll call?
Ms. Chester, Mr. Cho, Ms. McLaughlin. Here. Ms. Utman. Here. Mr. Warburton.
Here.
Mr. Weisskopf.
Here.
And Mr. Welch.
Here. We have a quorum. Are there any changes to the agenda? Now, everybody had a chance to review the minutes of the December 16th meeting. We have a motion then to approve those.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Is there any second? It's now been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of the December 16th, 2015 meeting. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Believe that motion carries and the minutes are approved. Are there any written communications? Any continued public hearings? All right, then at this moment, would ask anyone who might be considering testifying to stand and raise their right hand. Do you affirm that any testimony here will be true and accurate to the best of your ability? At this point, then, I call ZBA 2016 Major-01 for hearing. Do we have a staff report?
Good evening. So this case is a request to install a front canopy that would encroach 7 feet into the required front yard at 303 West Griggs Street. The existing building on that site already encroaches 4 feet into the required 15-foot front yard setback, and the proposed 3-foot canopy would encroach to that full 7 feet, and that requires major variance. This property does have a conditional use permit that was granted back in 2001 to have a mail order record store there. The building is still used for that purpose. There's also a small section used for bicycle-related retail. You will recall last year, in 2015, a major variance was granted to reduce the number of required parking spaces at the property from 7 to 3, and that was part of plans to renovate the building. And then this canopy is also part of the plans to renovate the building. So if you look at Exhibit A, you will see where the property is located at. It's a little west of Ray Street, just west of the new park at the Boneyard Creek, near downtown Urbana. And this property, if you'll recall from the previous case, it's an interesting property because it was developed, the building basically covers the whole lot. It covers probably 85 to 90% of the lot. It was developed long before we had current zoning standards in place, so it doesn't really conform to most of the requirements in the B1 district. The first step in this renovation project, as I mentioned, was last year was to receive the variance to ensure that the parking could be reduced, and the applicant was granted that variance. And then now this case tonight is really the final step, which is to get a variance to allow the installation of the canopy, and then at that point the applicant would be able to go ahead and proceed with renovation plans. In terms of the variance criteria, I won't actually go through all of those. You can read them in your packet, but I will say that we find that this request does meet all of the variance criteria, excuse me, and that it will not serve as a special privilege to the petitioner. This was not a situation that was deliberately created by the petitioner. The variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, and it should actually enhance it. It will not cause a nuisance to the adjacent property, and it represents the generally the minimum deviation from the requirements of the zoning ordinance that would be necessary to accommodate the request. In this case, the Zoning Board of Appeals has three options. You can forward this case to the City Council with a recommendation for approval. You can forward it to the City Council with a recommendation for approval with certain terms and conditions, or you can deny the variance request. Staff recommend that the ZBA forward the case with a recommendation for approval with the following condition: that the canopy be built in conformance with the plans provided by the applicant in Exhibit E, which you can find in your packet. That concludes my report. I can take any questions. The petitioner is also here if you have any questions for him.
Are there any questions for staff? Go ahead. Oh.
Can I just make one? I just noticed this now, Kevin. Generally, on the conditions, we indicate that it should be in general conformance to allow for minor tweaks should there be a building code issue that needs to be, you know, a screw needs to be a little bit thicker or something like that. So I'd recommend that we put forward that condition with the term general in there.
So shall be built in general conformance?
That is the typical language,
Okay.
yes.
With that suggested change, are there any questions from the board? All right, thank you. Would the petitioner like to come forward now, please?
I have nothing to add, but can answer questions if there are any.
You have to sign in. Would you please state your name?
Jeffrey Merritt.
And you said you had no statement to make, but you are available for any questions.
Yes.
Are there any questions for the petitioner? Yeah.
Generally, how long does a canopy like this stay in good condition?
This is going to be made out of steel, and so it's not a canvas canopy. It's like the rigid ones you see out. It's almost fashioned as the one outside of the old Coca-Cola plant that's been there for 100 and something years. So it's I-beams and steel, and I believe there's in the drawings there's something about it, but it's not canvas and bits of pipe, but it's built into the building. And I have no idea how long it lasts, but longer than me.
Okay.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I noticed no one else stood to be sworn. Still not too late if anyone else wants to speak either in favor of or in opposition to this variance request. You just have to be sworn in. Does anyone else in the audience desire to speak? Thank you. Is there any further discussion from the board? At this time, entertain any motions.
I'll move that the zoning board approve ZBA-2016-Major-01 to the Urbana City Council with a recommendation to approve the request with following condition. Number one, the canopy shall be built in general conformance with the plans provided by the applicant in Exhibit E.
Motion been made. Is there any second to that?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Would the clerk then make roll call, please?
Mr. Cho? Yes. Ms. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Uteman?
Yes.
Mr. Warmbrun?
Yes.
Mr. Weisskopf?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes. That motion carries, and it would now be forwarded on to the city council for their consideration. And when do we expect that to happen?
We're going to turn it right around and bring it on Monday, the 21st, so this coming Monday.
Is there any old business? Any new business? Any audience participation? Any staff report tonight? Listed here, the study session. Is there anything to be studied? That appears then to conclude the business of the board for tonight. Take a motion to adjourn. It's been now moved that we adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? We are now adjourned.